My first experience was the summer of Malachi's seventh grade year. And I was actually looking for, because I realized, my husband travels a lot. So we needed a school that had structure. But I was also looking for a school that had faith immersed in their program. I looked at all of the boarding schools, and none of them really had. Hargrave was the only one. So we said, okay, let's try the summer program. And if he likes it, then, we'll do that. So he came the summer of his seventh grade year. And then when Malachi came home, we were asleep at like 1 a.m. He came in our room and said, I've got to go back to that school. Mm. Yes. And so that's how the experience with Hargrave started.
Nice.
So we were looking for something different than the public schools because my students are day students. And Hargrave is obviously the easy option because we were right here. So we came and visited and walked around. The boys actually got to walk around campus, and then we sat back and talked with Ms. Lipscomb and Dr. Tung, several of the others, and got back in the car. And Kelson, he was like, yeah, we really like this. Keelan was kind of on the fence. He's my social butterfly. So he's like, I'm leaving my friends, yada, yada. My oldest had motocross nationals. We came home on a Sunday. The next day, public school started. And I said, Keelan, you have not decided what you're doing. You need to decide. So we're unpacking the car. We've been gone for 10 days camping. So he comes back in and says, I want to go to Hargrave. I was like, well, you got an extra week because you start later. So he and
they do everything together right too, in. Right?
Yeah. Usually, typically, sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he decided I'm going to do Hargrave, and here we are. They love it. Mm-hmm. I never heard bring them in the first day. I'm expecting to hear something was different. It wasn't like public school. But yeah. Nothing. I never heard a negative word the entire first year. To this day, we have not heard a negative word. Wow. They have loved every minute here.
Our first experience was there. I have two, so rising ninth grader, rising 10th grader, rising ninth grader, rising 10th grader. And so it was sort of like right during COVID, and we started thinking, maybe we should do something different. And they were sort of, maybe floundering a little bit. And so we started to look around, and we toured some schools and came to Hargrave and met with Miss Lipscomb. And we came to one of the open houses in the summer. And we just loved it. I mean, the structure and everything they have to offer. The kids were with us, and they were walking around campus. And I remember looking at, my youngest was sort of looking around like, they've got a lot here on campus. So it's like, so they enrolled that fall. So.
Nice.
So our first experience was with my oldest son, who's now 24, and he came here for a summer. It was a threat. Like if you don't get your stuff together, if you don't get your stuff together, then maybe military school. And so my oldest son and two nephews came up here. But it was not like a regular, Hargrave year. It was the summer. I think there were some, shenanigans over the summer. And so that was our first experience. But it was where we chose for him to come here, the oldest. The youngest, George, who's here now, it was a pure decision by him. It's a kind of an interesting story. During COVID, we lost my dad, and he was very close to him. And then a couple of months later, he lost a friend to suicide. And so within 2 months, he came to us and said, hey, I need your credit card. I'm like, what for now? And he said, for an application, I'm going to apply to military school. And I said, well, sweetheart, you don't do that. He's a 10th grader. You don't do that till your senior year. And he said, no, high school. I said, well, we don't have military high schools in Houston, Texas. And he said, no, boarding school. And I thought I was sucker punched. I mean, I never thought I would ever think of anybody else raising my child. I was intentionally became a mom. And so I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, his GPA was a 1.6 at the time. And so I was like, okay, wait till they see his transcript. Yeah, no prep school is going to let him in. So I'll get to keep him at home. And he called a couple of them. He had applied to the one in New Mexico Military Institute. And then he applied at Hargrave. He had filled out all the paperwork himself, had even already gotten recommendations from his school, his headmaster, and I was starting to get calls. And then NIMI, his grade point average wasn't where they wanted it. He was a couple points short. And then, but Hargrave, when they did the interview, I think George ended up asking more questions than they asked him. And so within 2 weeks, George was gone. And so he knew he needed a brotherhood. COVID was a big, it was hard for him mentally. And he's a social kid. And so he signed himself up and found his brothers. So that's kind of how we got here.
You know the Anacom in Camden has a camera on it, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
motion detected. So one night they were going to formation that night, and Matherin came up to him for help. He had something wrong with his shirt, so Elijah's like, "Okay, come here." And he fixes it and all, and Matherin runs off. Then Elijah turns around and Matherin just grabs him and just hugs him and just "Ah," and Elijah's like, "All right, get to formation." And Matherin runs off, and Elijah just smiling and walking away. But there's all these little moments like that, or I'll see like George sitting in the chairs in there and just talking to somebody, or the same thing with your kids. They'll come through and they have like, it's so funny how different each one of your children are, and I don't know, it's just so much fun.
They're not
every day.
afraid to hug each other here.
No,
For
they're not.
boys,
No.
For young men, they are not afraid to hug each other. In
It's
fact,
a
I think
true
it was
brotherhood.
I think it was
Yeah,
Kelson the other
yeah.
day. I got a picture of him last night where he was like going up and giving it. I was like, okay, that's a weird kiss. What are you doing?
No.
George. Like,
Oh, yeah.
They're not afraid to show each other affection, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, boarding school does that, breaks down the barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, all of this being said, and I guess maybe it's because I'm here in town and day students, but you always hear parents around thinking that the kids that come here, they need disciplinary action. They're troubled kids or whatever. If they would come to campus or even share these podcasts or they can see, that is not the case. And I don't know how you break down that barrier that people have thinking that that's what's here, because they know my kids are not like that. They didn't need that.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't think.
Right.
But they get here, and it's just so much more that they receive
Yes.
at a school like Hargrave. So I don't know how to break down that barrier outside where people are thinking that they're troubled kids. That's why they're at
Don't send my
Hargrave.
kid there
And
because
that's-
it's just
Yeah.
disciplinary.
Yes,
I
no, it is not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the way we do that is like we've been, I've been continuing now to share as Hargrave publishes, because I will tell you, Dottie, when we first decided to send Malachi, the first question was, oh, what's wrong?
Yes.
And people would question, okay, why are they sending their son to boarding school? And then Elisha came, and why are they sending their kids to boarding school? But as Hargrave, with social media, as things are happening, more and more people are coming to me and saying, wow, I wish when my son was that age, I would have sent him to a place like Hargrave, because they're realizing all of those stereotypes like, oh, boarding school are for bad kids. That is not the case here.
No.
The one thing I do like about Hargrave, that it is counterculture, and I love that. You don't get your phones during the week.
No.
And I think what they're implementing next year now is you really have to earn your phone, as opposed to it just being a privilege to have your phone.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there are kids that come here that do need more structure. I think you get, as a parent, we get to a point where they start muting us out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And
Oh,
they
yeah.
stop listening to, because we're always the disciplinarian, we're always telling them what they're doing wrong. We sometimes forget to focus on what they're doing right. And so some of the kids that come here do need more structure. And some parents that send their kids here, obviously they're kind of at their wits' end sometimes. So I think you have a scale of all of it. But what I think everybody needs to understand, that this is a place where they're growing men, not
Yes.
putting them in, solitary confinement. It
Yep.
is, it is
Right.
not, right? It's
Right.
not that. We have great kids here that are great leaders, that want to be military leaders, they want to be business leaders. This is not just a place where if you kids just needs more structure, but I believe every young man needs more structure.
Yes, definitely.
And that it just takes them to a new level of maturity.
Absolutely.
They can grow emotionally and, academically and everything in an environment where they know exactly what to expect. Like the boundaries are set, the expectations are there. They know what happens if they don't abide by the rules. And, there's a lot of that positive reinforcement so that they had the opportunity to grow and focus on themselves.
And we don't have to do it.
I know.
And I like
It's
when
like you
someone-
outsource most of your
Right.
parenting.
Well, you know what? I mean, we don't have to do it, but I would say after the first month, you're talking about expectations. Yes, after the first month, they know what's expected of them. They know where their boundaries are. You don't have to teach them. It's like they know it, they take it, and they move with it.
Yeah.
They are on their own to go as far as they want to go.
That's right. They get out. They
That
get, what do they say?
opportunity
Get out
is
what
there.
they put in.
Yes,
Mhm.
the opportunity's there, which I don't think you get, and I'll use public school, for example. You don't get that there. You
Yeah.
get that here.
And I like what one of the mothers said. Her son has graduated since, but she said Hargrave is where boys arrive and leaders depart, and that is so telling of all that Hargrave invests into the kids, right? In terms of the structure, the discipline, the leadership, mentoring, all of that. And there are kids who have graduated from Hargrave that we still have relationship with their families, Malachi's friends, and some of the kids do tell me, they say, Mama Dixon, when we go to college, we realize we're more mature than the freshmen that enter college that didn't go to a military
Absolutely.
academy. That
Well,
just,
they've had to learn leadership skills that are almost at the PhD or master's level. They have this battalion that they have to. They basically become parents to these younger
Yeah.
kids.
Yes.
Especially seventh graders.
Yeah.
These kids are coming here, and what I would say though is to parents is, go with the program. Don't undermine the program. Don't undermine the structure. Don't be the call where they call you and you help them get out of trouble. Go along with the structure and the discipline that the military staff provide here and the administrative staff, because then they always feel like they have a way out. Whereas this works.
Yes.
This structure and discipline work.
Telling them that we want them to fail because here there's a parachute and it can be a teachable moment easier. So fail better, fail better till you get better. Bill and I call it just one big lab. And,
Yep.
it's a lab for us because we have fun learning how to grow these men proper.
I think what really stands out to me in terms of my kids being here is just the fact that you can work for an organization and it can be a job, but then you can work for an organization and it can really be a calling. And from the administration to the tax to the teachers, you can tell that all of them are vested in the success of all of these young men. So, and I often joke around, I say, if they fall forward, right, they're going to meet attack. If they fall to the left, they're meeting Mr. Bunker. If they fall to the right, they're meeting Chap. And if they fall back, they're meeting another attack. So there's people in there that are helping them, not only the guardrails they have around them, but also mentoring them. And if they make a mistake or have, any type of setback, it's like, okay, what's the teaching moment? What lesson did you learn from that? So I think for me, that's really big, the fact that, all of these, everyone on campus sees each of these young men as their own sons, and they mentor them in that respect. And I really love that about them.
So I think one that stands out, it's not even about my boys being here, but when we have the birthday lunches for the kids, we bring them the pizza and the cupcakes, and they get a Gatorade and some chips. Well, they love it. Some of them even sneak in, and it's not their birthday. And I have a list.
And maybe you sneak some to the ones.
And I have a list. I'm like, you are not on here, but just wait a minute. So when we're done, and we always get extra cupcakes because you got to have extra cupcakes.
Right.
My husband happened to be here with me that day, and I had extra cupcakes. And I walked out with cupcakes, and it was like a swarm of bees. And I was like, I have 10 cupcakes. There's 170 of you. This is not going to work. I was like, find somebody to share one with. So when we left, Petey was like, my husband, he says, we got to bring them cupcakes. So we're going to be bringing them cupcakes. So all of them can have a cupcake.
Aw.
So it's just little things like that. The mom, you feel like the mom, you feel like you got to harbor all of the love that they're giving, no matter which way it's coming in.
Exactly.
But you have that feeling when you're here on campus.
Yep, you do.
So,
Yes. I do love coming in. I love coming to campus. I know we all do.
Yeah.
But I love it.
They probably want
And
us to leave, but
I
yeah.
know. I love walking in and seeing any of the boys that are in the military office, they, hello, Miss Hooper, and then come give me a hug. And It's just such a wonderful
Yes.
feeling. But I will just say that I feel like what comes to mind is like anytime my kids have had like a success or a failure or, something that they didn't accomplish or something they did accomplish, I hear from everybody, like you were saying, like I don't feel like, I'm sad that I'm not here to give them a hug when it happens, but I feel so good that you're there, giving them a hug. Or one of the taxes, they say, well, Mom, so-and-so said this, or I went up and sat on Christy Lipscomb's couch in her room and talked to her about it.
For some candy.
And got some candy from whoever, it's just, I feel like it's a family that loves them as much as I
Yes,
do.
yes.
And it's just, that's a story.
Yeah.
For me, it's so many stories. I think when George left, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had so much we'd had so much loss, and so I thought, okay, how am I going to go and plant myself in this town, make this a place where I go? I come up about once a month, and there was this one cadet, and he's maybe a little socially different because there are boys here that don't really know themselves socially yet, and a little bit socially different. And he came up to me and he's like, Miss Homan, I just really, I wish I had some of George's time. Like, I just don't think we understand each other. And so George and I had a conversation, and George intentionally invested time in this young man. And not long ago, this kid came up to me and he said, George spent some time with me and he acknowledged me for something I did, and he really makes me feel like he cares and loves me. And that to me is, those children sometimes that are outliers, that don't have personalities that fit in with everybody. It was watching my son invest time in someone that didn't feel like he's invested in, and then watching them love each other. And then the younger children, the 7th grade, George has a passion for young kids, and watching them look up to him as brothers. It's those moments. And all
Yeah.
these older boys have these younger boys that look up to them and look at them like big brothers. And so it's thousands of those moments at this place where this brotherhood is something that is, and you talk to the alum, it doesn't end.
Yes.
It continues to go throughout the life of their
Yeah, if you educate these young men thinking that when they graduate you'll never see them again, you're sorely mistaken. Funny you say that, because one of the things that I do is when a cadet needs a favor from me, if they need maybe a loaner or they got an infraction and they want their privileges back, I take the older cadets and I make them spend time with the younger ones. So I have a list, sort of an unofficial list of cadets who really need mentorship. So I'll take, like, for instance, got a loaner from me. So I was like, all right, I have an assignment for you. Check your inbox. And I'll say, spend time with this cadet. Or he had to go play chess with like this handful of cadets and spend time with them and report back to me, and I'll verify. But at first it feels kind of forced, but afterwards most of the time they understand. But it's definitely a way to kind of bridge the gap, because some of the little kids sometimes feel intimidated because they don't know how to start a relationship
Right.
with another brother here at Hargrave. So it kind of helps break down that barrier.
I bet they learned so much more than they thought they would learn. You'd think the I'll call them the underclassmen, the younger kid they're going to learn so much more from me. But spending that time with them, they're going to learn more.
Yeah.
And they're mimicking what I think y'all do, the military tax and the other staff, as well as you.
Oh, for
Bunker.
sure.
They see you mentor them, and then they're just mimicking what y'all do for them. And it's so comforting, like you said, to be able to make a phone call and say, Jeremiah, George is struggling right now, or Gallivan. It's just those calls you can make to say, hey, a different voice other than my own or
Yeah.
his father's needs to be present right
Yeah.
now. And it's been amazing.
It's so funny how the small things too will brighten their day up. Like I have George's room code, right? But I woke him up one day by just throwing a biscuit at him at like 5:30 in the morning. And I think
sure
I
they like
shocked
that.
Maydeen, because I was up there at like 5 a.m. and I come around the corner. He's like, "What are you doing up here?"
He's like, what went wrong?
That's right,
Yeah.
that's
I
right.
was like, "I'm handing out biscuits." But or like I'll randomly pull kids for coffee, or I do what I call therapy, where we'll buy bags of candy or cheeseburgers or something, and I go to each classroom and I say, give them a riddle, and whoever solves it, I'll throw something at them and just leave the room. And I'm sure some of the teachers are like, right? But
Hey,
for
a
them,
riddle
it's
is so good for critical thinking.
Yeah.
yes,
That's awesome.
yeah. But it's fun. It's those moments that you try. Like I have a luxury of being flexible, so I try to like create a moment. I have a 1-5-10 rule. When I was running jiu-jitsu, it was 1 minute a day, 5 minutes a week, 10 minutes a month for each kid. I had to adjust that because there's almost 200 kids. But I still keep that in my head, 1-5-10, to spend moments to have those kids who need it to really kind of facilitate that open relationship. Or like if you have a kid who's struggling, I have a kid who's really going through the ringer and he loves ramen. So I went to Family Dollar and bought all the ramen. And I made the leaning tower of ramen on his desk while he was in school. So when he got to his barracks, he just was like just those little moments are
I remember
so much
that
fun.
with Elisha's birthday.
Yeah. Oh, I did that with Elijah
yeah,
too.
for the chocolate chip cookies.
They thought I was a serial killer or something. Because I'll go in a store and just buy all of one thing. So I bought all of the chocolate chip
Yeah.
cookies. Yeah.
And they don't get that at other schools.
No.
It's you can't have that personable experience of being at home with them, or them feeling like they're at home. Y'all feel
Yeah.
at home here.
It's
Well-
a community. It's
It
a
is.
family.
Yeah.
It is.
You all being on campus is so priceless. I know you know this, but I really need to reinforce this because these kids who are away from home, a lot of them don't have mothers or they don't have the example that a mother sets in their lives and they need it sorely. So having you all around, just your presence in the room helps them way more than you realize.
I remember thinking that. I was like, I don't feel like I should go in there. Like, I feel sort of out of place in the beginning. And one of the administrators was like, no, we love when moms come to
I
campus.
feel like I'm disrupting.
I do. I feel like I'm
Oh,
disrupting.
not me. I'm
everything.
like,
No.
I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
Come on,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
in.
I don't
Yeah,
feel like that
disrupt away.
anymore, but in the
Like-
beginning I did. Like, maybe I shouldn't, because I didn't want to throw off all the good stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disrupt
Yeah,
all
but
you want.
over time, these young men, they all become sons, right?
Right.
It's like I'm coming and, I get an email, Ma, you're bringing a jollof rice and these are all the people that
Yeah,
need
your
jollof
food is
rice.
famous.
Right. So then I go to Walmart and I said, okay, this time around, because sometimes I bring the jollof rice and not everyone gets. So I'm like, okay, I need the names because everyone's going to get their own personal bowl.
Did you bring mine this
Yes,
time?
I
Thank
did.
you. Thank
And
you.
then I'm like, oh, I need to bake some cake for the tax. So the military department got some very freshly baked pound cake this morning.
I saw
You know,
it.
so it's those types of things, or like, Castillo would call me and say, Mama Dixon, I'm out of Cheez-Its. No problem. I'm going to bring you Cheez-Its when I come home.
Yeah, the mama
it's-
home is
yeah.
the mama. All of a sudden, you've got 50 kids.
Yes, exactly.
You
So
love
that's
it.
why it's mother of many sons.
That's
That's right.
But I think that's too what you have to acknowledge. Like, I'm trying to, like, I've loved getting to know y'all.
I know.
Yes, yes.
And when you're in a different school environment, and this breeds sisterhood in the
Yes.
moms. Like, I know I can call Dodie or Holt or Julie, and they're coming up here, or Eli's mom. You can call. Like, George got pneumonia when he came. He'd gotten it at home and came back here. And I knew I had Michelle Galvin, I knew I had two women that loved this boy
Yeah.
that were going to take him to the emergency room and make sure, he was okay. And so I've loved
Yeah.
the sisterhood.
Yes.
The
I
sisterhood,
call,
definitely.
the
'cause
sisterhood of the Hargrave.
there was, alumni weekend. I was out with, Elisha with Camden in Virginia and needed an adult to sign Malachi out. And Jen was right there to do that. So, yeah, the sisterhood is very strong. Very, very strong.
Very good. Yes. I was going to say it was a story. My dad was here at one of the swim meets, and can't remember who was in the pool doing their race or whatever. All the guys were over there, go, 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 cheering him on, cheering him on, cheering him on. And my dad had mentioned to my nephew, he came to look at Hargrave 2 weeks ago, and we were sitting there in the kitchen talking about it. He was like, I have never been to a place. Like, they were cheering on, it was their teammate, but it was still their opponent. They always do that. When they get an award, they're always cheering them on. When they're out on campus somewhere, they're always cheering each other on. They're speaking words of encouragement. Or they will roast each other with love, right?
Yes.
but still roast each other.
Yes. But there is, I tell the people that are asked, I was like, there's not really any judgment here. Like,
That's right.
there's the people that are not social
They're socially
butterflies,
different.
They're
yeah.
socially different. There's
the non-athletes, there's nobody cares.
No.
There's a brotherhood, and they love each other, and they
Yes.
treat each other with respect and know the strengths and weaknesses of each other. And I think that just helps they all build each other up based on that.
It's like one for all for one for all.
For all,
Yes.
Like, Mom, can you bring coffee, but for all 7 of us on the bat staff?
Yes.
Right.
Or, Mom, we all want pizza because we're
Yeah.
going to a basketball game. Can you, because you get all those calls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or here,
We
here's
all
the
get
order.
those calls.
Here's the order for McDonald's.
Yeah. I get
And,
that.
you know, this is for this person, that person, here's this person. Make sure this is not in the sandwich and so forth. So I'm like, okay, that's too much. Just text me.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure I bring it. And then as you're going to McDonald's, like, how far away are you? Because we're really hungry.
I'll ask the coaches, what do they need for after the game
That's right.
or after the match, whatever
Yeah.
they're doing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, just to piggyback off what you said, I like the fact that they're really, like at the awards, sports awards, they would really, really cheer each other on, really encourage each other. It's such a strong brotherhood.
And it's not only that, how they treat the coaches and the staff. Like when all of them got up there to announce the awards or whatever, they were still cheering
I know.
the coaches.
Yeah.
And
then
they
they
were
start
like,
calling them
simmer down so they
nicknames
can finish.
And I think there are other school systems that have issues right now with respect,
Yes.
right? You have a student body that is just off the deep end sometimes, that is just disrespectful to teachers. And if you look at this military structure, it does not allow for that. It brings them to a different level of having to be disciplined and respect their elders, and there's a chain of command. Like, it's not just about sending your kid here because you want somebody to fix your child. It is truly about teaching them how to have good morals and principles with the way they treat other people,
Yeah.
is what I think it brings.
As a Hargrave mom, you go first. You were going to say something.
I was going to, and it made me think about something you said about a minute ago about the counterculture. I heard the word culture. My oldest racing motocross. We meet people all over the world. The twins were coming up in public school. We're in this Danville, Pennsylvania County community. They're not reaching out, there wasn't the opportunity to do that. So here at Hargrave, how many different countries is it? 5 or 6 different countries, all over the United States. They are meeting people from everywhere. And I think that is such a blessing to be able
Yes.
to be here with all different cultures.
Yes.
And they're
Learning.
they're seeing them day in and day
Yes,
out and
they're-
learn all about them.
Yeah,
and
they're
their
learning
cultures.
about how they
Yeah.
function. They learn about how they functioned at home, what their cultures were, their traditions. It's neat when they'll come home and tell us about it. So it's just cool.
And
That
it's not monolithic.
No.
There's somebody from different backgrounds, different color, different culture, different countries, and some people say we don't see that. Like, they see that. They understand where everyone's coming from. Different personalities, extroverts, introverts. It's like the whole world in this very
Little campus.
this little campus is all in one place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time.
Yeah.
I would say, and I recently talked to a mom who was really, after she signed the contract, signed the papers, made the commitment, she was actually really having anxiety. So another mother called me. And so I called her, and really tried to settle her down because, it's not easy to be able to, send your kids off and I actually had similar anxiety when it was first time for Malachi to come. But I really, in terms of encouraging moms, it's like you release them out of the nest because not for who they are now, but for who they're going to be. And I think for me, that was the satisfaction that I kind of got because I feel like, I would be the mom who would, I don't like the crust on the waffle, so you have to cut it off, and all of those things. So it's really releasing them to become the best version of themselves and to also walk into the purpose that God has for them. And so, I would say to the mom who's having anxiety, just breathe deeply and just know that on the other side, whether it's 4 years later, 5 years, or 6 years later, if your kid goes to all throughout Hargrave, that on the other side of that, you're getting a young man who's going to be prepared for life, who's basically has an advantage of being a leader, up one than his peers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I would say when you bring your son here, coupling what Julia just said, you're releasing them to become a better man of character with better leadership skills. So look at that in the long run. Don't harbor those feelings of my baby, my baby, my baby, coming from the mom that is a day student mom that dropped her sons off for matriculation and cried. It's okay. You can cry.
I didn't know that. That's so funny.
Yes.
Like you get them every night.
Yeah,
And you're
every
like, but I'm
night.
still taking
But
them.
day student, I dropped him off, both of them, and I was like, and then I was asking, I was like, why are you doing this? But it's okay to cry. But when you drop them off here, like Julia said, they are stepping into a whole nother realm of expectation, opportunity, becoming better men. When they're going to be more mature. They're going to be, they're going to make decisions better at making decisions on their own. Let them go. Let them make the mistakes. Let them fail here because the parachute is there. So and cry. It's okay to cry.
Yeah.
I just remember, it is really hard to bring them because they're like, you still look at them and they're a little baby. You're like, that's a baby. He's a baby, and I'm leaving him at this school. But I remember what the commandant at the time, Jason Rader, said to us, all the parents in matriculation that day. And kids are scared. The parents are scared. It's just like, it's the right place, but it's just everybody's nerves are on edge. And he said, they're in good hands. And he said, please don't cry when you leave in front of them. Cry after you leave. And he said, please don't call them and tell them you miss them and you wish you were here. Tell them you're proud of them and you're so excited for what they have, ahead of them. And that really struck me because the kids depend on our strength. Like, this is right for you.
Yes.
And you're going to thrive here. And, and it is a wonderful experience. So I would just say, be encouraging, try, cry,
Yes.
When you're not with them.
In your car.
In your car on the way home. But, because, you're going to miss them, but there's so many, you see them all the time and you see them thrive and that's worth it. So.
Kip and I, we believe in what we call love and logic parenting, which is you give your child two options. You show them the option where the good decision is going to provide good results, and where the decision that may not be good potentially could provide negative results. And so for us, it's the parents got to do that too, right? Is you can't helicopter parent. This is not the place where you helicopter. And you have to trust the process. And maybe sometimes I'm a little bit of the antithesis of babying. Often on our Facebook group, I'll be like, okay, I'll send some messages out that basically are telling the parents, back off.
Yeah.
I know you're just laughing at me. Back off because they got it. This school's got it. They know, and they actually do know when this is a place that's right for your child, or even when it's not. And so if some parents have gotten that call where, like, maybe he needs to go away and mature for a year and then come back to a school that's a military structure. Like, they got you. They know when and what to do to put things to make happen to make sure your child has the right experience, or that a positive outcome is gonna come forward. And that's what I would say. Don't helicopter parent. I'm a little bit of a tiger parent sometimes, or tiger mom. You can keep on those things because you don't lose track of your child, don't lose touch with your child and what's going on. In fact, I say engage in a different way. But for the mom that's coming here, don't helicopter, cry in the car, and trust the process.
Yes.
Is what I would say.
At home, if they're at home, it's typically mom and dad. If mom and dad are in the picture, stepdad, whatever it is, that's seeing what is bothering a child or what is exciting a child. And you've done that for a long time at home, raising the baby that you're releasing to Hargrave. But at Hargrave, you have Mr. Bunker, you have your English teachers, you have the admin staff, you have all the other teachers that see all of these sad moments, happy moments, and they all have a different perspective. So they're all giving that cadet a different type of love in every situation. So they're not just getting mom and dad, they're getting, and then they call mom and dad and say, yeah, this is what
Yep.
happened. So then they get mom and dad's reassurance behind it. So you have, we'll call them the aunts and uncles at Hargrave that are giving them that other perspective that they would probably listen to more than mom and dad anyway.
And it's not just staff and military staff, right? It's Miss Yvonne in the cafeteria.
Right,
Yes.
all
Yeah.
of them.
Who's a
Yeah.
huge influence on
Nelson.
almost all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
Nelson.
Oh my gosh.
Miss Loney.
Miss,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I will say another thing to like parents bringing their kids for the first time is, I thought all these kids are like proud of their hair. They're proud of the shirts they're wearing, the clothes. They take pride by the time they're a freshman in high school about what they're wearing. And so I thought my kids were going to have a hard time with that, like not liking the uniforms and didn't want to cut their hair and all that kind of stuff. But really, everybody is doing it. So it takes that whole thing, like whole concern off the
Yes.
table.
So parents do not worry about that.
You don't have to worry about, they don't have to worry about what they're wearing. They know exactly what they're supposed to be wearing. They don't have to worry about, how they're going to have their hair because everybody has
it.
their hair the same.
Exactly.
And when you get the call or when you come here for matriculation and they have long hair,
Yeah.
step out of the building.
Yes.
Because they are going to beg you to not get their hair cut.
Yeah.
And I've
that's
heard a
not
couple
an
of those
option.
stories. No,
Yeah.
it's not an option. There's just some things.
You always get that one every year. You ain't cutting my hair.
Yeah.
You cut my hair. I'm like, all right, I'll see you in a bit.
I think that was
Haircut.
Vance. And and he's graduating this year, and he even said, I think I'll probably keep my hair short.
So when they come home, what do they wear around the house?
They're
Hargrave.
They're
They're
Hargrave
Hargrave
clothes.
stuff.
That's
I'm like,
right.
You have all these clothes in the drawer,
Yeah.
and we have on a Hargrave attire. Doesn't matter. So all those clothes they were prepping for.
This was so safe here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
George is emotional like me, sensitive, but like he's gonna miss these brothers.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of like it's hitting him really hard
Yeah.
on the fact that the safety net of living with each other, loving each other, being there for each other is.
And then you
I'm
go
worried,
home
yeah.
to your room,
Yeah.
and nobody else is in the house, and you're
Yeah.
like, sort of depressing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when people come home from the military, you hit this peak experience, and then having to replicate that somewhere else is very difficult.
Yeah.
I think it was Trent we was in there talking to the other day, PD and I, and we were talking about PTSD for some reason, and he was like, when the guys come home from the military when they've been serving, they go through that a lot because their routine is broken.
Yes.
Broken.
Yes.
And that's the reason you see so many of them homeless. Is because they don't feel like they can function.
Or
outside.
alcoholics.
Or alcoholics. Yeah, they're trying to find something else. And there is a term for that. When Kelson was doing theater, just like here, he spent all this time with all these people, and then when the show was over, he was like, I was like, oh,
Oh, gosh.
my gosh.
I know.
what is going on? He was little. And I told the producer what happened. She was like, yeah, and it's a term for it. I can't remember what it is, but look it up, and it may be some stuff on there to say.
Y'all, I feel like
Do
I'm
this.
gonna have that.
I know.
I mean,
I know.
I've tried to implant monthly here so
Yeah.
much, and I know, like, if you don't text me every month, if y'all don't text me every month, I think I'm gonna lose my shit.
I know.
because I feel like I'm saying goodbye to a school, a group of people that we became family with, a town, the Bauer House.
It's
I mean,
friends who we become friends that have
Yes.
the same,
Same
concerns,
goals.
same
Same
interests,
goals.
same,
What's on the on
every,
the yearbook? Have y'all seen the yearbook?
Yes.
It takes
I
a village.
it was
seen it
perfect.
yet.
I got
It
chills.
takes a village.
It's like
The
a village.
we've
It's a
made the
village.
village.
We
Yeah.
made the
We
village.
have made
Even
the
like me
village.
now, going into Malachi senior year, I'm sometimes I have anxiety attacks. Just one of those things, because
Yeah.
it's like, wow, you've been on this journey, and the journey,
The other thing is the safety. Like,
Yeah.
he's far away from you here, but you know what to expect. It's almost like now they're going to go fly out in a world that doesn't have that structure,
Yeah.
that doesn't have the same type of people that care about them like you do.
yeah.
That's a fear. I mean, that's
Yeah.
And you just pray that, they've learned enough here and absorbed enough here to be able to then use that as a building block for what they'll do.
Having these little moments with trying to talk to two girls last night at senior dinner,
Oh,
and I walked up, I was like, what are you doing talking to my man? And he was like, Mr. Bunker, no.
They
But-
know
You
you are
blocked him.
always
Oh.
watching them.
That's right.
I did that.
Person or online.
You
Yeah.
know what's interesting though about relationships? So there was a point this past year where George was seeing someone, and he basically told her, you know, I'm going. It was between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and he said, look, I've enjoyed this relationship, but I've got to go back in November through December. It's busy. Like we've got a lot of things going on with the core, a lot of things with school, exams, and just know I'm not going to be able to communicate as much. Now, it didn't end up well because she couldn't handle it, but he knew how to regulate himself to say, look, I'm not going to be able to be as dedicated or to be, to be as attentive
Yeah.
so it's just amazing the different things in
very mature.
Do you
relationships.
realize that
yeah.
level for a teenager
I
to do
know.
that?
Yeah.
Because teenagers, they just want more. How many times do you see a boy and a girl dating and they will not separate?
I know.
And I drilled it. I was telling George this, and I was telling Worrell and a few others. I was like, absence makes the heart grow fonder. You need the separation because it creates appreciation. And it's hard for a teenager. They just want it right now. And I think we forget as adults that the feelings they're feeling is incredibly magnified. And I put it like this. Do you remember the first time you ever got in a hot tub? Oh my God, it was hot, right? Oh, it was horrible at first, but you get used to it. And then the next time you go, it's easier and easier. When they're in that hot tub phase, first time, it's burning up, everything just whoo. And I think we forget, and I think we downplay their problems sometimes
Yes.
because in our minds we have experience and perspective, but they are huge problems in their minds.
I think number one is, moms make the world go forward. And so coming into Hargrave, when you try to figure out where your place is, how you can get engaged and involved, I walked into a group of ladies that cared about the school. We had just come out of COVID. So all the engagement was hard to do or to volunteer. The parent association, the women in the parent association were super involved and want to work on how do we improve? The reason it exists is to enhance the cadet experience. That's it. As well as the staff, but primarily the cadets. And so we just took were very difficult years through a pandemic and just came up with ideas and brainstormed, took ideas from other parents on how we could come together, raise funds, volunteer, give our wisdom, our wealth, also advocate on behalf of the boys for a better experience, and then provided a way to do that. So where we saw gaps or where we thought we could make something feel a little better or do a little better, we did that. And I think we're going to continue to do that, and
Yeah.
we just need the rest of the community to also kick in and do more, be more, as we would say.
And I
Yeah.
think that the Parent Association provides an opportunity for parents who aren't here to feel like they are doing the day-to-day for their kids. Like when it's their birthday, we celebrate their birthday, we make sure they feel special. When it's, whatever it is throughout the year, they're celebrating. There are a lot of parents who can't be here for their last football game. So the Parent Association makes sure that they are celebrated, and we take their picture, and of course Daria takes their picture, and we, make sure that the parents are recognizing them like we would if we could be there, because we're distant, so we can't be there. So
Sharing information too.
sharing information.
When one of
Good-
us is on campus, right?
Yeah.
We take pictures and post to the, and so
Right.
it's that increasing in communication and exposure to what the boys are doing on a daily basis,
yeah,
right?
yeah, mm-hmm.
If I'm at a ball game and I have the cell phone or Facebook friends with one of the parents, I'll try to FaceTime them or go live with them so they can see
And we are
Their
so
child.
grateful. She has sent me
Yeah.
videos.
their and
Yeah.
pictures. And so as a day student parent, I try to do that with people that or tell them, hey, your kid did this play or whatever. So on top of yes, we are here to help make them feel like their parents are
Yeah.
still here, still
Yes.
with them, still surrounding them, but from a distance.
Yeah, make them
Yeah.
feel seen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Similar whole, when I'm at, whether it's the Camden Rifle Competition or the march or the band in, Philadelphia, I try to go live, try to post pictures and videos so that they feel involved, in the experience. Yeah. And I'll address Malachi and Elisha. With Malachi, sometimes you're constantly having conversations with your kids. giving them, like you say, wisdom. And so there was this one day where there was a podcast, and Malachi was in the podcast, and he just talked about, how since the 7th grade he had matured and see some things that he had done differently that is now doing differently. But one thing he did say that stuck out to me, he said, I realize that time is something you can never get back. So, that he's now looking at his time and, doing things wisely, being more mature about things. And then with Elisha, Elisha, his coming to Hargrave, he came to the summer school. He was really gung-ho on Hargrave, but he wanted to come in the 8th grade year, in the 9th grade year. And I said, no, we said, no, you're going to go in the 8th grade year. And he, was upset about it, but he got into Hargrave and just took it on. And, there are things that he learns that sometimes when we're having conversations, he would say to me, it's not what people think about you, it's what you really are doing. And I'm like, wow, he is really maturing. So I've really seen a lot of growth and maturity in him in the last couple of years.
His summer school, he was so quiet at first, and he was just taking it all in. He was
Yeah.
in my computer science class, and he was one of the quieter ones in the room, just observing and stuff. Get that a lot. I'm actually surprised nobody's banged on the door, to be honest with you. Next.
I cannot think, I'm sitting here trying to think of a teachable moment.
I'll let
yeah,
you think
please
a little
go
bit
ahead.
longer. I've got one. So one of the teachable moments, that I wasn't involved in, it was just Hargrave, was when Vance got in trouble for something. There was something there was something bad going on, and kids got in trouble, and Vance was in the room, and he got in trouble, but he wasn't doing it. Like, he wasn't part of the group, and he couldn't understand why. And then he's like, why am I getting in trouble for this? Why am I getting bull ring tours for this? And it was because he didn't stop it. And so, like, that's a huge teachable moment for everybody. It wasn't just
Yes.
him. There were other kids in the room that didn't stop it. So even though you aren't participating in something bad that's going on, it's your responsibility as a good citizen to try to stop it. So that's like the just a leadership teachable moment for all of them at the time. I was so actually sort of glad that he was involved in that, because it was a very good teachable moment.
George has had one of those moments too. Several of those were guilty by association, right? How do you
Yeah.
stay away from being guilty by association, but looking out for others? I think the biggest teachable moment for George is, we are a family that has advocated for others or people that we don't know, or that are less fortunate, and I think that's been George's teachable moment. Here at the school, when things are occurring or the boys want to do something different or enhance or make something better, usually your children think about themselves first, and rather than what's best for everyone. And I think that's been George's. He's had a group or a core that he knew he needed to advocate for, and not just what he wanted, but to get consensus or get ideas from the broader group, and then advocate for what they all need or what they all want. And so that's been our biggest, he's used to that at home, but for him to take that on too, and then start doing that and play that out and practice that in serving others has been, I think, I don't know if it's a teachable moment, but it's a learning how to do it the right way in an institution or a structure. And so I think he's going to take that away, hopefully keep going. It's not about the
Yeah.
awards, it's about how you make people feel.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Trying to tell these boys that relationships are a huge key to success. And the skills that they're learning on the barracks, interacting with each other, problem solving, is so cool to see and
So cool.
useful.
The boys know that, and I've told you ladies this that last time we were together, I am always looking for useful information. I'm not a fiction book reader. I want to know, give me all the knowledge. So I always tell the boys there is something to be learned in everything, good or bad. Don't do that again, or
Right.
do this better this way. And it's funny what you just said, because we were at the Naval Academy for one of the candidate visit weekends, and the guy on the one of the student panels, he was they call them firsties because they're first class seniors, basically. He told the crowd, he was like, I'm learning it's more of who you know than what you know. And those relationships, like you're saying, that you build, they'll take you far in life because somebody knows somebody everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always telling the boys, there's teachable moments in everything, and never burn bridges. Love everybody for who they are. We're all different.
Yeah.
So you give respect, you get respect back, that kind of thing. And then Kelston wanting to be special ops, he wants to graduate, go into special ops, and he's like, I want to lead my team into war. I want to be that front guy. So hearing all of this and the teachable moments, I feel like everything is teachable. I can't think of like anything that in specific that has
They haven't
happened
learned
here
something
that they
from.
haven't learned something from.
Yeah.
A funny story, when they were little, being twins are very competitive. There was a banana on the counter. They're like two or three this tall. And they both saw it. It was one. Keelan ran and got the stool and pushed Kelston had the stool. Keelan pushed Kelston off of the stool, gets up on the counter to get the banana. He turns around, looked at Kelston and said, aha, sucker, because he got the banana. Kelston took the stool away, so he couldn't get down. He said, now what are you going to do? I mean, they were like 3. So teachable moment there for Keelan.
It's too good.
You cannot outsmart.
It takes a team. It takes a team.
I like that they're involved in dance, and
Yes.
I would love to see cotillion here.
Oh, I love cotillion.
So that the boys
yes.
could learn how to
That's a great idea.
respectfully approach a girl and interactions that are a little more wholesome and they're fun for them. So I would love to see that.
We had actually talked to Commandant, Trish and I had talked to Commandant. We were in there together one day. I don't know what it was for, but anyway, we had talked to him about that, and I think they're getting something together in that regard. So the boys did cotillion. I think they were 6th and 7th grade.
Yeah.
But a story, just last night I was at a function, and it was younger kids, our seniors, they were seniors, and I was standing there. It was a lady presenting an award to another young lady, and they were practicing behind the scenes how to shake hands and accept the award.
Oh.
And I was like, that's a cotillion. That Our boys know that. That's
Yeah.
all I was thinking of. So, yep. That would
Do you
be
guys
good.
have fun as parents being chauffeurs and listening to everything going on in the
Yes.
back
Love it.
seat?
Love it.
That's my favorite. That's where I get my best intel.
And it's not from your kid, it's from the other kid.
I was
Yes.
gonna say we carpool
Yeah.
to and from school, and I'm always like, who wants to carpool? Because I love to hear them talk, and I love the jokes that come out and the stories that come out, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I get stories and then we'll talk and be like, hey, what about this
I
story?
know.
Listen to that.
Did you
Yeah.
hear this?
Did you hear this story?
Yeah.
I think the public needs to know. I think you struggle when your kid goes into these teenage years, right? They are living in an environment that we just don't really sometimes understand how to navigate, a very digital environment. And so number one, I would say the benefit of coming to Hargrave is, number one, they take their phone through in the middle of the week, which I love.
Love
It
it.
disconnects them from that digital world that is so judgmental
Yes.
and so crazy right now. That's number one. Number two, I would say this is probably one of the only places in the country, maybe in the world, that is focused on growing boys into men with values. I don't want to say traditional values, but values that value character, value faith, whatever it is, whatever faith you have, academics, and physical health. Like, those pillars mean something here. And I don't think there are other places in this country that foster that boutique kind of experience, that special experience. So if you're looking for a place that really will bring those good values to your child and they leave here a young man with character, we looked for it, and
Yes.
and this is one of the only places that provides that. And the fact that they can love each other. George has a verse, Philippians 4:6. So he's now leaving here with a list of verses that we share on the phone, and it says, "Worry about nothing, pray about everything." And so when your kid leaves, even though he wants to have it tattooed on his body, he's leaving with wanting scripture on him rather than
Yeah.
things or symbols that don't
No
Objects.
regrets.
yeah. Right. Yes, he's leaving with the word of God on him rather than no regrets or some,
Yeah.
some other message. We good?
Good.
I
Somebody's
love you
got
guys.
some
Well
knowledge.
said.
I think I want to take this time though to thank the Parent Association and the women that were so welcoming when we came.
I know.
When you go to hand over your boy, she's got 50 moms that love him, for growing that Parent Association to raise money for these boys, for truly not thinking about your selfish needs for your child, but for thinking about the entire core and the community. And so I'm officially passing the torch
I know.
over to you, or back to you, right? Because you had it before too.
You have some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
So, yes.
But I do it with
yeah,
humility.
It's been so
innocence.
much fun.
It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
We've had some crazy
so
ideas.
rewarding.
Yeah.
Extremely rewarding. Friends forever.
Definitely.
Sons forever.
Talk about a network forever.
a network
Absolutely.
forever. And so I want to thank y'all. It's
Yeah.
been amazing.
It has been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank
your
you.
leadership, your giving, your time.
And just loving on the boys,
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
there's nothing
loving
better
on
than
them.
going and
Yeah.
playing a game or two in that military office with your kids. So I think on my phone when George comes up, it's the Hooper boys, and then you get pictures of all of them.
Yeah.
And for letting me take your children
Yes.
whenever, that's been amazing too. So thank you.
I will say to all the parents out there, don't, you see us four here, and there's several others that couldn't be here this morning, but approach us. Ask us what you need to ask us. We will help. If we don't know, we'll find out from somebody else, but don't be afraid to get
And
involved.
I'm sure we've had the same question.
Yes.
Before.
Don't be afraid to get involved. And it might be different now than it was then.
Yeah.
And someday we'll create that playbook or something.
Yeah.
It's like-
So just come, don't be intimidated. Come ask us anything.
That's right.
We're here for you.
Yeah.
And then I would just say too, we're here for you as moms. So, if you have a question, something about your son that you want to pick up the phone and talk to another mom.
You need to cry about it.
Yes,
Whatever.
just, just call or reach out.
We've got you.
Yeah.
You've got the psycho. You've got the sweet one. You've got the one that gets everything done. Yes.
I like when y'all get into mama bear mode though. That's
Oh
hilarious.
yeah, don't mess with
watching.
our boys, man.
Yeah.
Any of them.
I know.
Any of them.
Any of them.
All 179 of them.
I'll go into the military office sometimes and there's one sitting there that I'm assuming has got in trouble and I'm like,
But what'd you do?
what did you do? That's right.